Hi, it's Kelly Ray. I want to talk about having that conversation, and not only having that one conversation, but having every conversation. In our office, it's very normal to be called into my office or to have me stop into my assistant's office because we just have real conversations all the time. And this is something I've been working on for almost 20 years. At the beginning, I remember being very scared to have those difficult conversations. I would avoid them at all costs. I'd rather send an email telling somebody I was upset or that something needed to be different, which can be disastrous. So I did everything wrong early in my management career. A lot of times when I'm teaching seminars, I think back to my first leadership job and I just laugh and I'm like, if anyone out there knows anyone who used to work for me, I'm so sorry. So this is something that I've learned after a long time, and we really created a culture here where we're comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations, and we work hard on that. So even today, I just had a conversation with my new team member, and it was very casual because we have a lot of conversations, and we just went over her job description, we went over her compensation, we talked about her bonus structure, and we asked, we had just chatted about things that were good and things that weren't good, and both of us shared openly. And I just started to think of all the people who called me this week really frustrated with their staff. I gave them all the same answer, and it was, have the conversation with them. And I totally understand. I'm in the role where I'm advising you how to have conversations with your staff. But the reason I wanted to come on video and do this for everybody is because I didn't get to say this to everybody this week, but this is one of the biggest things I learned in my leadership career, and it's one of the reasons why I think relationships work. So when you're finding yourself talking to your spouse or your friend or your partner or somebody about a staff member, the first recommendation that I have is probably just to talk to the staff member, and not to talk to them in a passive-aggressive way or in an angry way or an emotional way, but to always be that kind, calm, supportive leader I told you about, but to be direct. A lot of people aren't used to direct. I have that problem sometimes when I start working with a business, and I'm just very honest and direct and straightforward, and a lot of people don't get that because they've never really had that. So they think I'm, rude or too direct or that sort of thing, but I always tell everyone, you'll never wonder where you stand with me. You'll never be worried about your evaluation. You're always going to know how things are going. And because they always know how things are going, they always go well. The only employees we tend to have problems with are those who won't have real conversations. But your employees won't get good at having real conversations unless you role model that, just like everything else. You have to role model the kind of behavior that you want. So, number one, just start having the conversations, but remember that you want to be kind, calm, supportive. Don't show up all angry. If you're emotional, go take a walk around the block, that sort of thing. But just show up and say, I want to have a real conversation about what just happened, in that meeting. And the second piece of advice I want to give you is be quiet. After you start the conversation and you sort of put out on the table, here's what I want to figure out, or here's what I want to find out, or here's my intention, just close your mouth and open your ears. This was like the second biggest thing I ever learned as a leader. I used to talk and talk and talk all the time because I thought I had to tell everybody everything and teach everybody and know all the answers. And I was a terrible manager when I did that. And now I try to talk 10% of the time. I try to ask the right questions and really listen from the employee what the barriers are, how I can help them, what's frustrating them, maybe what they've misunderstood. And when you actually start to listen, you start to just see, oh my gosh, I know the answer, I know the solution. It's like, we can fix this together. But if they hadn't started talking, then you would have nothing to go on. You'd just be like, let's try this, let's try that. Just ask the question, get the conversation going, and listen. And sometimes you have to use silence as a tool. You have to just literally sit there in silence and let them know, we're going to stay here until you share. I really want to know what's going on. And then you just sit there. I've sat there for like 5 minutes before, and it's horribly awkward, but then the person just unloads and you have everything you need to make that relationship better, to have that employee be more successful. Third, don't forget, when you go into a conversation with an employee, you have so many tools. You don't need to be mean, you don't need to yell, you don't need to be angry, you just need to use your tools and stay kind, calm, and supportive. So your tools are their job description, their KPIs, the policies that you have in place, the procedures that you have in place, your culture statements, your mission statement. All of these things that we do Sometimes people think it's just a binder that you put on the shelf. You make these documents and put them on the shelf. No, these are all supposed to be documents that are used all the time in your relationships and your conversations. Because if you sit down with someone kind, caring, and supportive and you say, let's go over your job description. How's this part of your job description going? Well, I don't really understand what that part is. Okay, perfect. Now we're getting somewhere. And you can go through the conversation that way. Always staying kind, calm, and supportive. Do not ever go into a conversation and just say like, I'm sick of this, blah, 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 and be really angry. That won't work. Deal with that emotion in a healthy way first and then go have the conversation. But yeah, I just really want to share that message going into the weekend. I'm sure this will help, in personal relationships as well. But if you're stomping around or you're frustrated with somebody or you just don't really want to be around that one employee, there's a conversation you need to have with them. And you also need to make sure that when you have the conversations, you hold them accountable. If they make an agreement and you tell them, this has to be better, and if it doesn't get better, we're going to have to implement progressive discipline, actually implement progressive discipline and still be kind, calm, and supportive. But if somebody, the 5, 6, 7 times does the same thing that you've told them is unacceptable, you've listened, you've heard the things that they're saying are barriers, and they're still doing that thing that you asked them not to do, you have to terminate them. You have to. You will cost yourself good staff, you will cost yourself your sanity, and you just set a really bad example for everybody else. So be really clear and direct, be kind, calm, and supportive, use your tools, and ultimately, if the employee still won't get on board with your mission, your culture, your values, and do the things that you've asked them to do, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to let those people go. And I find a lot as my clients grow, some of my clients who have been with me, 4 or 5 years, every year they really level up. They get more intelligent, better leaders, they raise their standards, they live their mission more, and some people just can't come along for the ride. And that's a choice that they make, and that's okay. If you do things this way, that is them making that choice. So I know that that's kind of a difficult conversation to have, but this has been coming up for a lot of business owners, so I was hoping to give you sort of a helpful, less painful guide to this. So I hope your conversations go well, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.